Dear friends, we are now into the Vesak season and reflecting and recalling about the life of the Buddha, the accomplishments of the Buddha, the hopeful example that was set, that it is possible for a human being to obtain this release from suffering, that this miracle of teaching is possible. It's possible for a person, a human, having had this world-shaking, transformative insight that breaks up the conventional way of experiencing everything, to then be able to communicate in a way to point to that experience and to show the pathway of practice which is so attainable and which connects with things that an ordinary person with common sense is able to experience and know for themselves, and is then able to go step by step based on things that can be experienced along this path, to gradually loosen up this prison of conceit and craving for more life. When we were sitting in meditation, the sensations of the body, just being in touch with the sensations of the body, can be a very blissful, pleasant, and sublime experience, in the sense that the mind is absorbed in something which is fundamentally innocent, fundamentally not involved in any kind of a materialistic quest. So placing our awareness there is like placing awareness into a safe space. The sensations of the body are not, to my experience, particularly pleasant or unpleasant. It's kind of a mixture, isn't it? I mean, everybody has their aches and pains, and there's a way that the sensations of the body can be fascinating and interesting. And then there's a way in which, by a slight turn, this is like a 6-degree turn in the way that we look and the way we see, that something about actually the mind-body connection, or you could say the connection of awareness. So awareness itself is something that's like a light, and directing awareness toward this body is like a light shining, illuminating, and bringing the parts of the body into awareness. It can be then that awareness can shift from just focusing on a very small, specific point. You might have found that someplace where the breath is touching, whether it would be at the nostrils or the rise and fall of the chest or the rise and fall of the belly, just that movement within the body, the sensation of that movement was the one thing, and that the awareness could absorb into that, and everything else falls to the background. And that can be very pleasant indeed. I spent my day on a particular chore that I have that requires looking at a screen and focusing on words, or later on focusing on numbers and words, and paying attention in a focused kind of a way to something external like that, because it's something that is necessary for my other goals. But it's a position of very close to a karma creation, because there's a job to do, and it would be good to finish the job if possible, or to complete a significant part of the job within one day or within one part of the day. And then having come to the end of that block of time, then to be able to put the work to the side and say, okay, well, this job is done up to this point. The thing I did this morning was I generated a trilinear of the monastic rules. I took the first 7 rules of the Sangha-disesa, which is the second section of the rules, and went back and forth to be very correct, getting the correct English translation for each Pali word in those few pages, and putting them up in a document that can be used later with the other residents here in the community to practice and to help ourselves and all of us to be able to listen to the Patimokkha rules in the Pali language, having a good comprehension of the meeting, so that those who are not, if one is not trained in that way, then when we have the opportunity to sit for the recitation of the monastic rules, it can be sort of like because you don't have quite enough a mastery of the Pali language to be able to just listen and to clearly understand what's being said rule by rule by rule. And so then if you don't understand it, you don't really get the gain or the benefit of being able to review and learn and like that. So I just decided all by myself that I'm going to create a teaching tool, which is for teaching me and also teaching the others, so that all of the women in our community, if they choose to participate and do a little bit of further study on their own, that then all of us can be on the full moon day reciting our monastic rules in a spirit of comprehension. so that it's serving for wisdom, not simply attending something which is not meaningful. And in a way, this is similar to other projects and other tasks that anybody can get involved with. At our previous meeting before this, we were speaking about the gratification, the danger, and the escape with respect to all of the worldly things in life. Acknowledging in a very honest way that the things that we do, the things we get involved with them because there is a gratification, there is a satisfaction, there is something that feels good, and then in part, that gratification is coming about because of desire. Human beings ordinarily want to live. We want to live a little bit longer. Most human beings don't want to die just yet. Maybe only in the last few months or weeks of our life will we really want to turn our attention towards dying and be ready for that. But there's something that's really deep in us that wants to live. And actually, most of the sensual pleasures that people get involved with are coming up because of this desire for life. So things that are like good for us, even the stimulation of having a conversation with a friend, not to mention satisfying the needs of the body to have air to breathe and food to eat and liquids to drink, are all in some very profound way beautiful and wonderful, because this is the process of life, and there's something that's like in us that says life is good. That's the gratification, and it's very helpful to be honest about this. Then, with the danger, is that we know that all things are impermanent, and if we think all of the things that we're doing because we want to live a little bit longer, it's going to fail in the end. That all of our projects, at least for us personally, will come to nothing. That this lovely breath, which is good because it's the breath of life, which is beautiful because it's the breath of life, it's going to stop. And air element is going to be separated from the earth element, and the fleshier, the solid parts of the body are just going to be separated from any kind of sentience or awareness or any breath of life, just laying there like a log. The only life there will be the process of decomposing of the body. so the dilemma that my friend mentioned when we were talking a few days ago was she mentioned that she's involved in a project it's one of her charity projects that she's involved with, and so every year she spends a lot of energy and effort doing something in order to practice generosity and to give a gift to people who are needy, and so she does this work, and it's coming up to that time of year, and she's getting ready to do that work all over again, and then she begins to like have this doubt, say if everything is impermanent, and if it's all going to come to death in the end, maybe I should give up doing my good works, doing my charity work. It's just a lot of effort, and what for? But this is both the wrong way of seeing it. So in a certain way, what I felt was that this three-part lesson about the gratification, the danger, and the escape. So the gratification and the danger are a kind of a conundrum or a double-edged sword, or a situation where you can't win either way. So seeing the gratification of things just on the surface, while there is still the delusion of the self involved, then you can become like a victim of desire. You could be like an addict, and to be in withdrawal from your addiction is so painful, and just to get a relief from the pain of withdrawal, to take another hit of one's addiction, then you're getting a few minutes of relief from that. It's like being like facing right up to death, and being able to have a few minutes of not being in that death vortex, and sort of like being back into life. But seeing the danger because of impermanence without getting insight into the question about the self, then it's still is not coming to liberation. A person who doesn't really understand the Four Noble Truths, doesn't understand causation, doesn't understand the round of rebirth, doesn't understand about non-self. When that person sees this duo of the gratification and the danger, then they would become detached in a philosophical way, practicing acceptance, not expecting anything. But they would not have come to the transformation. And life then becomes a series of impossible choices. Like I'm trying to think of something that's even an aspect of the virtuous life. You could say a parent's loving connection to a child, a parent's willingness to do anything to protect their child from harm, parents investing of so much energy and effort to make it possible for that child to that's the gratification. And when we see the danger of impermanence, then part of that parent's prayer on a daily basis could be I know that this dear friend, my dear child, could be taken from me at any time. This child might die before me. I could lose this child. And letting go of any clinging attachment or ego connected to that relationship with that child. And then the following morning, coming back, and all the loving, the caring, and the commitment, and the attachment is still there. And that parent is still willing to do everything to protect the safety of that child and to provide all of the right nourishment, education, and so forth, so that that child would have a chance to grow up right and to become a good and successful independent adult. So the contemplation of the loss and the separation becomes a way to purify the virtuous activities that we do by eliminating the kind of the false expectations, the conceit of ownership, or even the conceit that ultimately in the end that my happiness or my welfare is depending on being a successful parent. If we put our trust in anything at all, and I'm trying to, just for the sake of thinking about it, to give you an example that's a very virtuous example. But if that parent has said, my success in life, my happiness in life is depending on my success as a parent, but that success is going to come to its limitation. There's always going to be a choice somewhere or other where there might not be any good choices. Or if you choose one thing, you may always think, why didn't I choose the other thing? If you choose the other thing, you say, why didn't I choose the other thing? So when, well, all those who have been in a part of a family know what I'm talking about in terms of the conundrums. But nevertheless, we just do our best. And then later on, if that child grows up, if they're successful and they grow up to be an independent person, they could look back and say, well, Mom or Dad made a lot of mistakes, but at least they tried their best. I know for sure that they meant well. They intended for my welfare and my growing up. When all the good things that we do are accompanied by the delusion about the self, then everything we do is creating a commitment to this cycle, this samsaric cycle of creating the causes for continuing in the round of rebirth. And to whatever extent we have that type of mental commitment, it might not even be like if you ask somebody to say in an explicit way, what is your intention here? You might say, I'm not trying to buy another life. I'm just trying to do what has to be done. I'm just trying to do what's the virtuous or the right next thing to take care of. I'm not choosing to put any energy into building up an identity, building up a status, building up a position, building up a world, clinging to that world, investing energy into perpetuating that world, so that then that world that I've fabricated in my mind becomes the world that I get to live in. And the one that I'm fabricating and living in is the one that I'm projecting forward with both with some clinging to my creation, and also with a certain amount of anxiety of not being comfortable to let go of what I've created. So you could say that how it is happening at a barely conscious level or almost a subconscious level, that when we can't help making choices in our life, but as we make these choices, clinging to this stability of fabricating like a situation or a world which becomes the world that we can have an identity and inhabit in that way, that's really the real danger. So it's not just the danger that I like something and that something I like is going to come to an end. The danger is that I am clinging to the thing that I like, I'm reaching and taking the thing that I'm like, or I'm running away from the thing that I dislike or that frightens me. And in that process of that clinging and that running away, I'm putting more and more fuel into the engine of the circle of rebirth. So when we see it in that way, then it could be possible to begin to follow the step-by-step sequence that the Blessed One understood and which he explained to us about how that cycle of rebirth gets built up and strengthened and perpetuated and carried forward step by step. And in particular, that clinging and that delight. So that we can move towards being in the world, experiencing the things that we experienced before in terms of, it's a world, it's got the six senses, it's got the things that we can experience through the six senses. It's got our inheritance, our memory, our life history, whatever it is that brought us up to this point. We experienced all that without clinging to anything. And then especially, we may begin to experience in the world how things are changing all the time. And instead of feeling distress and anxiety about the change, we experience no distress and no anxiety, even if the next day or the next hour or the next minute is completely unexpected, completely different than what we were planning for. If we have come to the point where we're not clinging to any expectations about anything, and we can simply welcome each moment, then that's setting up a different kind of an energy, and I think it's an energy that's able to take on board the teachings of the Buddha, and able to take on board this path of practice, leading to the destruction, the final ending of rebirth, the destruction of all of the taints, and the realization of the bliss of complete freedom and complete peace, which is Nibbana. I would welcome any comments or questions that anybody might have. In particular, I'm interested in asking you have you ever experienced being caught in that conundrum between pain and pleasure, and actually experiencing the escape from that conundrum? What changed? The whole situation is what it was before, but our relationship to it is not the same as it was before. The dilemma is no longer painful, no longer difficult. It is what it is. Life is beautiful and life is impermanent. Our friends are beautiful, our friends are impermanent. Nature is beautiful, nature is impermanent. Being capable of having a living body with senses that are able to experience anything is beautiful, and it's totally impermanent. What happened when we lost our craving about that, and when we lost our anxiety about that? I noticed that some of my monastic colleagues from the Aranya Bodhi Hermitage are here. And if they're willing to add a comment to this, I would call on them first. I never know if Aranya Bodhi Hermitage has a good enough signal. Okay, any others? Okay, Richard.
Thank you, Ayya. First, I just want to apologize that while I was meditating, my phone rang, and I have some rental property, and my renter's water heater burst. So, unfortunately, I didn't hear a lot of your talk. So, when you made your request at the end, having not heard the whole talk, I'm not sure exactly, how to respond to that. But I did want to bring something up, and unfortunately, I missed the Sunday afternoon class. But I did watch your YouTube video later. And that Sutra 103 in the Book of Threes in the Anguttara Nikaya, this is an interesting pattern that you see. And what I'm talking about is the Buddha saying, when I was just a bodhisattva, right? He comes to these realizations, and you'll see that in a number of sutras, and it's different topics all the time. But if you just read one, it would give you the impression that it was when he had that realization right there that he realized enlightenment and became a Buddha. But one time I did a study of every time that the Buddha said, when I was just a bodhisattva, and I wrote down what it was, what philosophical point or whatever, what insight he had. And then I came to understand that all of these different things kind of come together at the same time when one becomes enlightened, as a Buddha. An arahant may not get every one of these factors so clearly, but a Buddha gets all of them at the same time. So there's no untruth in any one of these statements when Buddha says, and when I realized this, then I knew, then I proclaimed I was a Buddha, because they actually kind of all come together at the same time. So that the truth holds, for any one of these philosophical cases. So anyways, I just thought that that's my view anyways, based on my studying. I thought people might find that interesting if they're familiar with these patterns and this. Thank you. Oh, there's one other thing I was thinking about mentioning, and it's probably totally off topic to this discussion in a sense. And again, though, I didn't hear the whole discussion, so I'm not sure. Maybe it is totally off topic. But I will re-listen to it later. I just wanted to say that as we're going along in our Buddhist studies, and obviously our goal should be, people can have various goals, but it should be to attain nibbana. But in order to get there, of course, one would have to attain sotapan, usually translated as stream entry, but I prefer hearing entry, first. And so one may wonder, okay, well, how does one get to that point? And what we have to do is, it's like looking in the mirror clearly at yourself, right? Okay, this is me right now, right? Or you, whoever's doing it. And has to say, I know we have so many years of accumulation of knowledge and experience and everything and whatever about Buddhism, depending on the individual, great or small or whatever. But if I was truly understanding the fundamental point that Buddha wanted me to understand in order to make that breakthrough, right? Then that knowledge would be correct. But there must be some subtle tint of my own ego or something mixed in with that. Because, you know, the Four Noble Truths are the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path is the Eightfold Path, the 12-fold sequential, dependent origination. I prefer not to use the chain. I'm used to it, and sometimes I'll say it, but it's not quite exactly the way it works. You know, all these things are there, and people can memorize lists and they can think that they understand them. But if you did actually understand that, you would have the breakthrough and you would attain, you know, sotapan. So, and this is what happened to me when I was 26 years old. I went to see the Zen master for the first time to start koan practice. I'd been going to the temple now every morning, or Zendo every morning and every evening for 2 hours of meditation each time for several weeks. And they finally said, okay, would you like to start this practice? I said, oh, yes, of course. That's why I'm here. So finally was the day, and I go in and I do the perfunctory bows and I sit there. And the teacher looks at me and he says, oh, you must be this fellow. And there's a little envelope that had $20 incense offering in there. And I shook my head, yes. And he said, so what's your name? I said, Richard. And he said, so what do you do? Now I was thinking just ordinary conversation type question, what do you do? So I said, I'm a computer programmer. And he said, oh, he perked up and he became very animated. He says, oh, he said, that is very hard, very hard. You must be very smart, very smart. So you must understand this Zen very well. And when he said that to me, I began to move my head slightly down, but not because I mastered Zen, but I had spent several years studying all the classics, hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversation with my mentor on many, many occasions, probably thousands of hours, hundreds of meetings. You know, I was just thinking from a book study thing. And as I began to shake my head, yes, the thought arose in my mind, well, if you understood Zen well, why would you have to go visit a Zen master? And then when I saw that, I saw when one is unenlightened, one is completely unenlightened. And they can't be sure of anything. And my mind became like I was a ghost, like I didn't know. You might compare it, if you're philosophically familiar, with Descartes, where he was saying, is this just an illusion made by a demon, you know, to trick me? It was kind of like that, but not in that theistic kind of way. It was like, are things solid? Are they not solid? Is something here or not here? Am I here or not here? It was so thorough. It was so complete that when he then asked me the koan, okay, so how do you realize Buddha while hearing a sound? And he bopped his little teaching stick on a little piece of wood, pop, pop, you know. And I could make no attempt whatsoever to try to answer that koan, because all my previous knowledge was now known to me to be nothing but a delusion. And so I had no reference point whatsoever, you know, to attempt in any way, shape, or form. And that went on for over a year until I finally, at a week-long meditation retreat, had my breakthrough. So, and it was so profound that, like, I remember being at work and having to walk through the hallways and feeling like a ghost, like I was just floating around and stuff like that. You know, I remember those thoughts very clearly in my mind. So I know it's a very hard thing to do, to think that I need to rethink everything I think I know. That's basically what I'm saying. You need to rethink everything you think you know, and try to approach it with a totally fresh mind, not depending on anything you ever thought or knew before. That doesn't mean you forget the Four Noble Truth list or the whatever, those, I'm not talking about that. But there must be something clouding your mind so that those things are being filtered through and you're not seeing them clearly. Anyways, that's just my opinion. I didn't mean to speak so long, but it's hard to tell the whole story without taking 2 minutes. So, but thank you for listening.
Thank you. Actually, I think it's a kind of a gift that we have. I feel this as a monastic, to be part of a tradition which is involved in such profound personal transformations, and then having the opportunities of knowing different individuals, especially knowing them over a longer period of time, and being able to know and see how people become profoundly transformed and have their breakthroughs. So it's a part of the what's good about a sangha. Good to appreciate. So I appreciate that. I'm going to call on Sheila.
Good evening, Ayya. I had an experience today which I think fits this discussion. Unless I'm taking, it's a moon day and I take the 8 precepts, I generally wear earrings as part of my work attire. And so after I got dressed, I had meetings today. Everything is on Zoom. And I signed off, and I had to run a few errands before our meditation and sutta study this evening. And as I was transitioning, I happened to look in the mirror and I realized that I never put earrings on today. And I just absorbed that and I said, wow, that's very interesting because usually that's part of my identity. And when I noticed that they were still on the dresser top, I said, well, there's no need to put them on. And at a different time, maybe 2 weeks ago, a month ago, even yesterday, I would have, before I left, put those earrings on to just go run errands. So I just thought that that was a significant nuance to identity and clinging and being able and letting go. So the thought came to me, well, if you didn't wear them and my response to not wearing them was much less opinionated than it has been in the past, where I have gone out and not put earrings on and didn't realize it. And I went to a store and bought earrings and wore them for the rest of the day. And so this evening, I felt, oh, well, it was just a different feeling of not seeing the earrings and the acknowledgement that I didn't need to put them on. And my response to seeing myself without them was much less and less poignant than it has been in the past. So for me, that was a pretty significant learning, which I intend to take forward. Because, and I also said to myself, well, maybe I don't need any of my earrings. So that was my experience today. Thank you.
Thank you. What a lovely metaphor for, I mean, it's both a real thing and it's a metaphor for everything else. How many things do we have that actually we don't actually need to put them on? And could it be that we don't need to put on anything? Yeah, That's great. That's a lovely example. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's been interesting for me. We were spending 3 months reflecting about stream entry. And I had developed such a level of optimism and confidence and just saying each part of what's taught in the sutras about stream entry is so doable, so achievable. Just pay attention in this way. And if you don't turn back and keep going, the stream entry will come for you. And then emerging from that period and coming up to the Vesak season and thinking about the qualities of the Sama Sambuddha, it's kind of like going from the playground up to climbing Mount Everest or something, or something like that, to even be able to speak about the Buddha is something that for me it's a little bit I could say fraught with danger, because what Sama Sambuddha accomplished is beyond. It's beyond my range. And then to speak in a way about the incidents of the Buddha's life and about all of the stories about the lives of the Bodhisattva has a danger of falling into a sort of like an academic way of speaking, or something that is actually like diminishes the point and the purpose. The point and the purpose of our practice is to follow what the Blessed One was suggesting, not just to get a diploma or get a paper published or to get in some kind of a debate type of conversation about it. But instead it's to take on board and really try with such sincerity, even any part of the teaching, any corner of the teaching that one is able to understand, can pick that up and say, oh, well, what does this really signify? Can I make it mine? Can I really integrate this suggestion into my life? And so just that a group of sutras that we looked at the last Sunday that were focused on the gratification, the danger, and the escape in things, worldly things of samsara, from the very obvious things down to the most subtle aspects, it's worth looking into, and not just looking into it by trying to memorize a catechism about it, but trying to take it as a pointer. You know, this is, I guess, the one thing I could say about the Buddha is the Buddha was kind enough to suggest ways of practicing that are available for me, which, if I pick up those suggestions and with all sincerity and without any reservations follow those suggestions, that I will realize the purpose of picking up this practice. And so that's the one thing I can say about the Buddha. He is kind, because he left a Dhamma, he explained a Dhamma that got written down and that has at least been sufficiently together that we can see how transforming it is when we're able to pick up some part of it, any part of it, and realize it for ourselves.